from Vrindavan. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananda Guri Vaishnavrinda ki Jai. Jai Sri Rup Sanatana Patragana Sri Ji Gopala Das Ragana Sad Goswami Prabhu ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopiko Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhana ki Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam Bolo Sri Sri Krishna Baldao ki Jai Gaur Prema. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. So all over the world, wherever Prabhupada went, before his Bhagavatam class, he would always chant this beautiful bhajan by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And very simple bhajan. Sometimes we sing some bhajans that are telling some story. Wala Vala Sangiv Denu Charai, Krishna's going with the copper boys and herding the cows. Sometimes, especially Narottam Das bhajans, how to train the mind. But there's no story, there's no instruction in this song, in this bhajan. So why was it Srila Prabhupada's favorite bhajan? Because in this song, it's only made of names of Krishna. But those names of Krishna are arranged in such a way that whole picture of Vrindavan comes. Whole picture of Vrindavan. First, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Jai Radha Madhav. Because Radha Madhav, they're the essence of Vrindavan. Van means forest. And we've been all over the world, we've seen so many forests. Here near New Zealand, so many beautiful forests. In South Africa, so many beautiful forests, and we can see lions and giraffes and rhinoceros and hippopotamus. We were driving down the road, this hippopotamus was charging down the road. And we just freaked out, but he went off and he jumped into the kund. And in America, we saw so many forests. Everywhere we've seen so many forests. So why we're interested in this Vrindavan forest? Because even today, if you have the eyes to see, Radha and Krishna are doing their pastimes there. So they're the essence of Vrindavan. That's why we're interested in this particular forest. Jai Radha Madhava, Kunja Vihari. And in this Vrindavan, we don't find big factories and tall skyscraper buildings, trying to be the biggest in the world. Kunja Vihari, so many kunjas are there. And I may ask, what is a kunj? Just like I see here in New Zealand, all the trees are growing very straight and straight. And I went to Ukraine and Russia, so many straight trees in Bhaktivedanta Manor. You fall over backwards to see the top of those trees. But in Braj, our trees, they try to grow straight, but they're melting in Krishna prem. They again come down. So it makes like a little room. Makes like a little room. Just like we saw one tree here in New Zealand. Looks like a huge pyramid, a round pyramid. And you could crawl inside, just like that. And because the branches have come down to the ground, the little creepers crawl up, and with their scented flowers, when the breeze blows, then that scent comes in the kunj. And in our house, we're very happy, we're very proud if we have a wall-to-wall carpet. But what is our wall-to-wall carpet? Just some synthetic fiber, plastic. But in Krishna's Kunj, before Radha and Krishna come, the Gopikas have come and they have put down malati flowers, madhavi flowers, sometimes mogra flowers, sometimes jasmine flowers, sometimes juhi flowers, sometimes lotus petals. This is the wall-to-wall carpet in Krishna's Kunj. So Jai Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, so many kunjas there. Gopi Jana Ballabha. So many gopis are there. As you may have heard, that Nanda Baba, he has 9 lakhs of cows. You know 1 lakh? 100,000. So 9 lakhs means almost 1 megabyte. So for milking all these cows, we need lots of gopis. So many gopis are there. Prabhupada, when describing this song, he was saying we don't find big factories belching smoke, streets with everybody going beep beep, Of course, you don't do that here. But the New York cab drivers, and especially India. So no, gopis, trees, forest, cows, so many nice things we're finding. We don't see Krishna running out the door drinking his cup of coffee trying to catch his bus. Beautiful forest is there with so many cows and gopis. Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giri Baradari. Our picture of Vrindavan will be incomplete without Giriraj. Without Giriraj, it's totally incomplete. Actually, Giriraj is one of the original things of Braj. When you go to Vrindavan, the Meeli Sampanda will grab you and take you. Then underneath this tree, Krishna was playing his flute. You put 101 rupees here, you'll get mukti. Underneath this tree, Radha and Krishna were swinging 51 rupees and you'll get mukti. But anyone can say whether this tree is 5,000 years old or not. No, nobody can say. But if you meet real Brajbasi, they will tell you there's 3 things, 3 original things of Braj. First is this Raj. Raj means dust. So what do we care about dust? Every day we're sweeping it out, or we have this machine. We throw it outside. But this dust of Vrindavan, it is mixed with the lotus foot dust of Sri Krishna. In fact, you'll see all the sadhus in Vrindavan, you'll see them walking with barefoot. They're hoping maybe there's one speck that touched Krishna's lotus feet. I'll step in that. Oh, mera dar ho gaya. I've been saved. So this dust is very special. And this dust in Vrindavan has been there for millions of years. So 5,000 years, we know definitely Krishna was walking in this dust. Second thing is Jamuna. She flows straight down from Delhi. Then when she gets to Braj, she begins to go like this and like this. She doesn't want to leave. She comes to Vrindavan, she gives a big embrace by 3 sides. Then she flows like a half moon around Mathura and like another opposite half moon around Gokul. And then she goes off to meet her sister Ganga and Prayag. So that Jamuna, she's been flowing for millions of years, what to speak of 5,000 years. And we know that Ganga, she's very special because she one time touched Lord Vishnu's toe. One time. But Jamuna, Krishna was diving and splashing and playing and doing so much, bathing, doing so many wonderful things every day. Just one time Ganga touched Krishna's foot and became so purifying. You can't imagine how purifying Jamuna is. And third thing is this, Giriraj. Lifted by the lotus hand of Krishna. These three things are very, very special for giving us Krishna Bhakti. So our picture of Vrindavan will be incomplete without Giriraj. Giriraj. Yasoda Nandana. Yasoda, Ma Yasoda is there. She's the emblem of love for Krishna. She loves Krishna so much. She can't bear to see him go out of her sight. Every day Krishna goes with his friends and all the cows, and they walk through the streets of Nandagram, and Mother Yasoda follows. They come to the gate of Nandagram, and they go through the gate, and Mother Yasoda comes behind, and Krishna takes her and says, Maya, it's okay, I'm with all my friends. See, all my millions of friends are here, no problem, I'm safe, Maya. He takes her back to the gate, and he goes. And again she comes behind. She can't let him go. He says, no, I'm with Balaram. Balaram, Bal means strength, Balaram. I'm with Balaram, there's nothing to worry about me yet. And he takes her back. And then again she comes behind. And he says, not only Balaram, Subal. We know Su means to make something very special, Subal is very strong. I'm with Subal, there's no problem, but yet. About 20 times he has to take her back to the gate of Nandagram. She's a symbol of love for Krishna. Yasoda Nandana, Braja Jana Ranjana, all the Brishvasis are there. Krishna by his own mouth, he is told, Brishvasi Balab Sada Mera Jivan Pran. These Brishvasis are more dear to me than my own life. So all the Brishvasis are there, Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna has come again. In Padmapara, Narad Muni tells Yudhishthira Maharaj that this Jamuna is so powerful, she's so purifying. If somebody has never taken his bath in Jamuna, then his whole life is Byart. Byart means useless and juiceless. So what are we going to do? We're down here in Patalaloka in New Zealand. What river do we have here? White? Waikato. No Jamuna. What are we going to do? Our whole life has become useless. He further tells Yudhishthira Maharaj that this Jamuna is so powerful. She's so purifying that even if somebody just remembers Jamuna, all his sins will go very far away. So every day we chant this song, no? Jai Radhamada, we remember Jamuna. We get our Jamuna bath even sitting here in Patalaluka. Jamuna Tira Banachari. The tir means bank. Not the ones that are ripping us off, but the bank of the river. Banachari. And on the eastern bank of Jamuna, there's 5 forests. Bhadravan, Bandirvan, Bahulavan, Alohavan, and Gokul Mahavan. And on the western bank, we have 7 forests. Madhuvan, Talavan, Kamudvan, Bahulavan, and then the biggest, Vrindavan, then another big forest, Kamyavan, and then another little forest called Kedarvan. Just like, who's Kedarvan here? Oh, there she is. So 7 and 5, 12 major forests of Vrindavan. So whole picture of Vrindavan has come. Jai Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giri Baradari, Yasoda Nandana, Braja Jana Ranjana, Jamuna Tira Banachari. Whole picture of Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We don't have one? No? I even bought my glasses. Okay. We don't have any clock here, huh?
Yeah. We need to get a wall clock.
Or one of those little digital clocks or something. I keep seeing the exit sign things, the digital clock. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3.
3 to 11.
2, 1, 2, 3, 2. Okay, marker's already here. Chapter 2, Remembrance of Lord Krishna. Verse number 11. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Pradarshya tapta tapasam avitripta drisham rinam adayantar adad yash swa bimbam loka lochanam Pradarshya tapta tapasam avitripta drisham rinam adayantar adadyastu swabimbam lokalochanam Pradarshya tapta tapasam avitripta drisham rinam adiyantar adadyastu swabimbam lokalochanam
Pradarshya tapta tapasam avitripta drisham ninam adayanta atharyastu sabimbam lokalochanam
Pradarshya tapta tapasam avitripta drisham ninam adayanta adadyastu
Pradarsha, by exhibiting, Atapta, without undergoing, Tapasam, penances, Avitripta Drisha, without fulfillment of vision, Nrinam, of persons, Adaya, taking, Antaha, disappearance, Adat, performed, Yaha, Ihu, to, but, Swabimbam, his own form, Lokalochanam, public vision. Translation: Lord Sri Krishna, who manifests his eternal form before the vision of all on the earth, performed his disappearance by removing his form from the sight of those who were unable to see him as he is, due to not executing required penance. Translation, please repeat. Lord Sri Krishna, who manifests his eternal form, before the vision of all on the earth, performed his disappearance, by removing his form, from the sight of those, who were unable to see him as he is, due to not executing required penance. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, the word avitripta drisham is most significant. The conditioned souls in the material world are all trying to satisfy their senses in various ways. But they have failed to do so because it's impossible to be satisfied by such efforts. The example of the fish on land is very appropriate. If one takes a fish from the water and puts it on the land, it cannot be happy by any amount of offered pleasure. The spirit soul can only be happy in the association of the Supreme Living Being, the personality of Godhead, and nowhere else. The Lord, by his unlimited causeless mercy, has innumerable Vaikuntha planets in the Brahmajyoti sphere of the spiritual world. And in that transcendental world, there is unlimited arrangement for the unlimited pleasure of the living entities. The Lord himself comes to display his transcendental pastimes, typically represented at Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. He appears just to attract the conditioned souls back to Godhead, back to home, to the eternal world. But for want of sufficient piety, the onlookers are not attracted by such pastimes of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that only those who have completely surpassed the way of sinful reaction can engage themselves in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The entire Vedic way of ritualistic performance is to put every conditioned soul on the path of piety. By strict adherence to the prescribed principles for all orders of social life, one can attain the qualities of truthfulness, control of the mind, control of the senses, forbearance, etc., and can be elevated to the plane of rendering pure devotional service to the Lord. Only by such a transcendental vision are one's material hankerings fully satisfied. When the Lord was present, persons who were able to satisfy their material hankerings by seeing him in a true perspective were thus able to go back with him to his kingdom. But those persons who were unable to see the Lord as he is remained attached to material hankerings and were not able to go back home, back to Godhead. When the Lord passed beyond the vision of all, he did so in his original eternal form, as stated in this verse. The Lord left his own body. He did not leave his body as is generally misunderstood by the conditioned souls. This statement defeats the false propaganda of the faithless non-devotees that the Lord passed away like an ordinary conditioned soul. The Lord appears in order to release the world from the undue burden of the non-believing asuras, and after doing so, he disappeared from the world's eyes. Pradarshya tapasam avitripta drishamrinam adayantar adadyastu swabimbam lokalochanam. Lokalochana, this is an interesting word, huh? Loka, usually means some planet, but here it means the people. Lokalochana, and lochana means eyes. So Lokalochana, from the eyes of the public. Lord Sri Krishna, who manifested his eternal form before the vision of all on earth, performed his disappearance by removing his form from the sight of those who were unable to see him as he is, due to not executing required penance. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamaya Tadati Svapadantikam Adadanaschanandan Dairitam Yache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padam Guru Kalisyam Janma Janmani Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatarvishya Prasindhu Vevacha Padita So Prabhupada comments here that this word, avitriptam, what does he say? Avitripta is most significant because all are trying to satisfy their senses in various ways, and they have failed to do so because it's impossible, impossible to become satisfied by such efforts. And Prabhupada goes to give the famous example of the fish out of water. Just like in old days when I was becoming a devotee, usually for the Sunday, very often for the Sunday feast, we would do this play, big fish, little fish. The little fish decided to rebel. Why everybody's following this big fish? Let me go. Everybody on the land, they're enjoying like anything. So he goes out into the land. And he tries so many things. It's big long play. It's even on YouTube somewhere. I watched it one time just to relish this old days. Because if you take a fish out of water, you can offer him a nice chair. You can give him a nice, just like now they have chairs, you push a little button and it goes back or any way you want. And you push another button and it vibrates. I remember I was home one time and my auntie was going on and on not to me, but to everybody, but I was sitting there, how she got this mattress, and it curves through your body, and if it's cold, it becomes warm, if it's hot, it becomes cool. And just trying to squeeze out some enjoyment from this material world in so many ways. So you give one of those nice beds to the fish, but he still won't be happy. You can give him some nice liquor, just like it's so expensive, but still people buy it, they don't care. The government puts so many taxes on it, they don't care. They drink themselves into poverty, and still they're not satisfied. So you can give him some nice drink, you can give him so many things. You give him a brand new iPhone 15. But fish will not be satisfied. He has to be in the water to be satisfied. Then he has to have the association. Here Prabhupada says the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We know what Krishna means the highest pleasure. So we're all looking for pleasure, but we're not finding in this material world. Just like my father was a doctor, so in those days, doctor meant he had so much money, even he didn't know what to do with it. I said that one time, I said, not like that anymore. But anyway, in those days it was like that. So we had everything. We had a beautiful house on the side of a canyon. There's no houses behind it, just went down into this nice canyon. And then we could see all the way down to Lanada Bay, and we could watch the waves come in and crash on the rocks. And we had so many facilities. But still I was feeling that I don't have any real happiness. I have facilities, I have comforts, but I don't have it. My heart was empty. And I decided, all right, in our family, money is not a problem. Why should I spend my life chasing after money? So I decided that I wanted to do social work to help others. So I went to the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, very prestigious university. I was studying sociology. And I just wasn't finding the knowledge that I wanted. And I began to think that I want to make people happy, but I have no happiness. You want to distribute money, then you have to have some money, right? If you want to make people happy, you have to have happiness. But I have so many things, but I don't have any happiness. So what is my social work? I'll help people to get a better education, so they can get a better job, so they can make more money, so they can buy all the same things that didn't give me any happiness. My social work is to make people as frustrated as I am. So I was at a big crisis at that time. So somehow or other, we were living in the Rocky Mountains above Boulder. And although I thought this is it, the Rocky Mountains, this is the place, somehow our paradise had a small problem because we were on summer vacation from school, and at the end of the summer it got very cold. So we came down from the hill mountain, and we went to the park where all the young people, all the young hippies used to hang out. We went to Central Park, and somebody came up to me and said, "The Hare Krishnas are here." And I said, "Oh no, don't tell me they're here too." He said, "Yeah, they want to start a temple. Huh? So they're staying with us in the cabin outside of Boulder. And tomorrow's Krishna's birthday." I said, "Krishna's birthday?" Because amongst all the young people, Hare Krishna chanting was very famous. We all knew chanting Hare Krishna. I used to sit in the mountains and chant Hare Krishna. But I had no idea what is Krishna. I didn't even know it wasn't a what, it was a who. And he's got a birthday. And so they said, yeah, and they're gonna fast till midnight. And at midnight they have a 25-course vegetarian feast, all Indian preparations. And I said, fast? Because I was, I had become a vegetarian more or less, because all the young people, we were becoming vegetarians, But I was traveling around with a friend named Sunshine. Only people from that age will understand what that meant. And he had fed me some things we won't mention here. So I said, all right, I could use a fast. And a 25-course feast? I was a cook, so Indian preparations. Wow, that sounds great. He said, we got room if you want to come and stay. So to make a long story short, anyway, we went out to there was a log cabin, real log cabin, not songwood like this, but real logs like this, And it was about 28 kilometers outside of Boulder. And we got there, and there was one devotee named Prabhu, and she was so happy that she saw that a new person had come to hear about Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. She was dancing and going like, Hari Bol! I said, what is this Hari Bol? She goes, Hari Bol! Hari Bol! And I thought, wow, this girl is really high. But I already heard what the regular principles of the devotees, and I knew she hadn't taken any drugs. I said, what do these people have? So the next day, Bhavananda handed me Bhavananda was the first devotee I met, and he handed me a Bhagavad Gita. Little old blue one from Macmillan that was, they edited it out about 800 pages, only 400 pages. Now we have 1,100 pages or something like that. So somehow or other, and he was preaching to me, and I was saying, but Bhavananda, aren't we all God? And Bhavananda folded his hands, he said, oh, you are God, and how you have forgotten. Wait a minute. We used to ask the same question. We would get high on certain things, and, oh, I'm God, you're God, we're all God. How did these people miss it all this time? How did we miss it all this time? We used to ask the same question, but I never understood the import of that question when he said it. Yeah, how did I forget? So then I started reading Bhagavad Gita. Just Prabhupada's introduction answered all the questions that were running around my brain. And he gave a simple example. This almost like this one. But he gave the example of a bird in a bird cage. Now you can make the cage out of silver, you can make it out of gold. My God, what the price nowadays. And you can put a nice carpet, you can put a nice HD TV, You can do so many things for the cage, but unless you give some nourishment to the bird, he'll be unhappy. So, the soul is like a little bird inside the cage of this material body. You can give all comforts to this body, But unless you give some nourishment to that soul, you'll not be happy. And Prabhupada explained that Lord Chaitanya has appeared to give us the nourishment for the soul. Transcendental sound vibration goes directly to the soul and gives it nourishment. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I said, this was the knowledge that I was looking for. I wasn't finding it in the university, but this is the knowledge that I was looking for. How to give nourishment to the soul. Because living in the mountains one time, it was a full moon, just happened to be my birthday, and it was a full moon, and you know, in the mountains, just like out here, my dear friend Arjun tried to wake me up last night. He said, you have to see the sky. It's amazing. I've never seen so many stars in my whole life. So we took little things to enhance our consciousness a little bit. So you can imagine the stars and the full moon were just shining like anything. And I went out onto the end of this rock, and I was staring at the moon, and all this white light was pouring down from the moon. And I was thinking, wow, I'm going to see God. I'm going to see God. And all of a sudden I peeked, and instead of seeing God, I saw what God was seeing. Here's this poor hippie, stoned out of his mind, hair all over the place, standing on the end of this rock staring at the moon. I saw what God was seeing. Instead of seeing God, I saw what God was seeing. And I said, 2 decades, it was my 20th birthday. I said, 2 decades. I've been in this world for 2 decades. I don't know who I am, where I'm going, or what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know who I am, where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing. So just after that we met the devotees, I read this Bhagavad Gita. He said, this is the knowledge that I wasn't finding anywhere. So I never went back to the university. I became student of Bhagavad Gita and disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And we found that satisfaction that we were missing. It was like we were so happy last night. Everybody was dancing to this Braj Kirtan so ecstatically last night. I was feeling so happy. So here it describes that Krishna, he disappeared from the sight of everyone. First he was apparent to everyone. But only those who were sufficiently advanced in devotional service can understand he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, he apparently left some material body behind just to fool the atheists. But we know Krishna's body is Satchidananda, no question of it dying. And if you hear the story, he was shot in the heel. Nobody dies for getting shot in the heel. But only those who were sufficiently advanced, just like Kants. He was also seeing Krishna. Actually, he was always thinking of Krishna, 24 hours a day. Actually, I'm envious of Kants. I wish I could think of Krishna 24 hours a day. He was so Krishna conscious. Always thinking about Krishna. In fact, he was so Krishna conscious, one time his servant brought a glass of water in a silver glass, a nice silver tray, silver glass, was sparkling and reflecting all the colors of the palace, And Kamsi saw something shining and colorful is coming. He said, guards, that dust has come, that rascal's come, Krishna, kill him. He said, Ari Maharaj, he just brought you water. Even seeing water comes with seeing Krishna. You guys all come to Vrindavan, and the first word that our Western devotees learn in Hindi, Pani, oh Prabhu, where's Pani? You come to Vrindavan, all you're thinking about is Pani, water. But Kamsa seeing water, he was seeing Krishna. His cook made a nice feast with all beautiful preparations, red tomato chutney, green paneer, palak paneer, and he put nice yellow puris and yellow cauliflower pakoras and cauliflower potatoes and sour cream. These are old days anyway. So, orange carrot chutney, very beautiful. He put it all in those silver katoris, nice silver thali. He brought it to Kams. Kams saw something very colorful and shining is coming. He said, guards, kill him, that dust has come, Krishna has come. Huh? Arey Maharaj, I just brought your lunch. Kams is so Krishna conscious, even seeing his lunch, he's seeing Krishna. I tell you, when the Sunday feast comes, actually, the other way around. You tell me the truth. On Sunday feast comes, and that big gulab jamun is sitting there on your plate. Huh? Do you see Krishna? Such bolo. But even seeing prasadam, Kans was seeing Krishna. He has two wives, Asti and Prati, the daughters of Jarasan. So they decorated themselves very nicely, very colorful saris and beautiful mukhat and so nice jewelry and everything. And they came before their Lord. Immediately he said, guards, both have come, Krishna and Balaram, come, kill them. It's us, your wives. Even seeing his wife, Kamsa was seeing Krishna. I ask all the householders, such boldness, tell me the truth. When you see your wife, do you see Krishna? So Kans was seeing Krishna, but our Rupa Goswami, he is told that, what is that? Anukul yena shilanam, anukul. We should see Krishna favorably. And Kans is seeing Krishna unfavorably, pratikul. Because he's only thinking how to kill this Krishna. So when we give up, how does that verse start? Anya vilasita sunyam, jnana karmadi anavritam, anukulyena Krishna anushilanam bhakti uttama. The anya vilas, anya means other desires. We don't have to become. Sometimes in Mayavad, they say we have become desireless. One time, Prabhupada in a lecture, he was saying, so the Mayavad say you have to become desireless. He said desireless means like a dead stone. So to see God means to become like a dead stone. I do not want to see what is God. Anya vilas. Other desires, those desires other than the service of the Lord. We don't give up desire, but now we want to please the Lord. We desire to please the Lord. Instead of pleasing our senses, we have to please the Lord. Anya vilasi sunyam. Get rid of all those other desires. Anukulyena, what is that? Anya vilasita sunyam. Jnana karmadi anavritam. Give up this desire for Gyan and Karm, Jnana Karmadi and Navritam, shouldn't be covered with these desires. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam, Anukul, serving Krishna favorably. Then gradually we can understand Krishna. So Prabhupada explains in the purport, Krishna comes before us just to attract us by his beautiful pastimes in Vrindavan, and Dwarka, and Mathura, just to attract us back to home, back to Godhead. For those who are sufficiently advanced, once they've given up all these material desires, they go back to home, back to Godhead. One time, Prabhupada was in Melbourne. First I'll tell another story. I was in LA one time, and Prabhupada says, you just chant 16 rounds and follow these 4 regular principles, you will go back to home, back to Godhead. Then Prabhupada paused, he said, I guarantee it. And all the boys went, Jai. And then Prabhupada looked around and he said, I guarantee it. So one time Prabhupada was in Melbourne, an old temple. And they had this big, tall Vyasa-san. I was telling the story now because somebody remembered that Vyasa-san. Big, tall Vyasa-san. Prabhupada was giving this lecture. And he gave one of those heavy lectures that if you have one pinch of material desire, you will not go back to home, back to Godhead. You know, you have to give him 100%, all material desires. Unless you're fully Krishna conscious, you will not go back to home, back to Godhead. And all the devotees went, hopeless. So after the lecture, Prabhupada got up, he took one step down, he looked around, he saw the hopeless faces of the devotees. He said, even if you're 90% Krishna conscious, you will go back to home, back to God. And then he took another step down, all the way Jai. And then he said, even 80%, all the way Jai. He took another step down. He said 75%, but no less. So Prabhupada is giving us guaranteed. He's giving us guarantee and 25% discount. Very simple process. So I immediately, of course, cooking was amazing because there wasn't so many rules and regulations. I didn't have anybody to help, so I was helping. You know, my long swirly hair and everything is helping in the kitchen. And first of all, they had this wonderful thing called ghee. It was pure golden liquid. I'd never seen anything like this. And they rolled out this dough completely flat as a piece of paper. And they dropped it in this hot ghee. And whoop, it blew up like a balloon. I said, wow, this is magic cooking. Then they had mustard oil. I'd never heard of mustard oil. And they heated it up, and they had these little round wafers, and they put them, and they went like this. I said, wow, this is really amazing cooking. And Bhavananda appreciated it. We have to give our energy. We have to serve Krishna. We have to give our energy back to Krishna. In those days, this is 1969, you didn't go to the Indian store and buy basin flour. There was no Indian store. Nobody knew what basin flour was. We had this cast iron grinder, and you took these chickpeas, and you put it very loose, and you ground it up, and they became like, gravel. Then you put it a little tighter, became like very coarse sand. And you put a little, it became like sand. And then you put it really tight, And I would just go like, grinding this, I said, wow, Krishna's really going to enjoy this. I'm really giving my energy to Krishna. So finally, somehow we survived fasting all day till midnight. And Bhavananda was just, he's preaching everything in this material world gets dull. You do something too much, it gets dull. And just like when I grew up, the TV commercial was smoking more, enjoying less, smoking more, enjoying less. Come up to cool. Prabhupada said it is fire, you say cool. But Bhavananda said in the spiritual sky, every taste is always heightening. You can go like this, and I would just go, touch is always heightening. Sight is always heightening. Sound is always heightening. Wow. So finally, midnight came, we had arti, and we sat down for this feast. And nobody had come. Everybody had told we'll come out to the feast. But we were all young people. They were 28 miles out, 28 kilometers outside of Boulder. Who's going to get there? Only my friend Sunshine made it, Somehow he hitched a ride and got out there. So there was the 5 devotees who came to start the temple. there was 3 hippies who were renting the log cabin, and it was me and Sunshine, who later became Srivas. So Bhavananda kept saying, "This is spiritual food, we can't waste it, but take more, take more." And I was amazed, you know. These puris were so nice, and cauliflower, potatoes, and sour cream, and eggplant balaram, and laddus. I'd never seen laddus before. Now I knew what they made with my hard work, you know. And then Bhavananda looked at me, and he looked at this. He picked up the sweet off his plate, gulab jamun. He said, "You know how to eat this?" I said, "No idea." And he took that gulab jamun and he popped it in his mouth. Now, in old days when I became a devotee, the law was that you had to let it soak for 3 days before you offered them. So this was a heavy duty. And I said, "Well, if you can do it, I can do it." And I popped that gulab jamun in my mouth, and I thought, well, in there, it's never going to end. And then he made me eat so much, I was just leaning against this log cabin wall, like, Hare Krishna, Hare. And I thought, wow, I can't move. And the other side of my brain said, if you could move, where would you go? Chanting, dancing, and feasting, and the absolute truth is revealed to you. And as soon as you walk out that door, the web of karma, birth, death, disease, and old age begins to entrap you, you know? I think there's no question of becoming a devotee or not. So I became a devotee. So somehow or other they keep feeding me this nice prasadam and I'm still here. I was thinking a wonderful story of, because sometimes we would go to LA. I think we were on our way to Rath Yatra. We were in Boulder, but we were on our way to Rath Yatra in San Francisco. But we heard that Prabhu was in LA, so we went to LA first. And just the day before, that album, Radha Krishna album had come with the Govinda prayers. And Prabhupada had just ordered that you play this for Darshan Arti. I racked my poor old brain. I can't remember what we used to do for Darshan Arti before that. But Prabhupada instituted Govinda prayers at Darshan Arti. So in the old temple, which is now where the Fate Museum is, there was a door in the back, and Prabhupada you went up to Prabhupada's quarters. And he came in that door, he walked up, paid his obeisance to Gaurnitai, took Charnamrit, paid his obeisance to Radha Krishna, because we just had little Radha Krishna then, and then paid his obeisance to Jagannath, and then he'd sit down in his Vyasasana. So Prabhupada came like that, he sat down in his Vyasasana, and he was chanting along with the tape. Govindam Adipurusham Bhajami. Prabhupada was chanting along. And all of a sudden we saw streams of tears coming from Prabhupada's eyes. And we were so embarrassed. We just wanted to peel up the tiles of the temple floor, and crawl underneath, Because who are we to be in the presence of pure devotee when he's experiencing ecstatic symptoms, You don't know about us. There's one fellow, maybe you heard of him, Chitragupta. He's the secretary of Yamaraj. He keeps track of everything. Chitra means picture, Gupta means secret. You thought, well, nobody saw that. Nobody saw that. We crashed his hard drive. So we were feeling, who are we to be in the presence of such pure devotee, feeling ecstatic symptoms, then the record stopped, and Prabhupada smeared his face like this, and he made a big snort. I can't do it. He made a big snort into the microphone. And that particular time, Prabhupada was teaching us Isopanishad mantras. In fact, we used to sing it in Harinam. Om Purnamada Purnamida. So Prabhupada sniffed, and then he just composed himself and pulled out Isopanishad, and he would chant, he would teach us a new mantra every day and go back and lecture wherever he left off in the mantras. So Prabhupada started, and he was rocking back and forth. Oh, in such a rich, deep voice. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Madaya Purnameva Shishyate. And it was just like Prabhupada was rocking back and forth like we're on a boat. And I understood we're on the boat going over this ocean of Kali. And Prabhupada is our sea captain, just rocking back. He said, oh, this is so nice, And he taught us all these Upanishad like that. Which leads me to another story that I heard from I don't have many older god sisters and god brothers, but I have one named Koshalya. And you see her wonderful face. She had I'm not sure what ancestry was, but she had almost like Indian she looked. And she's in that pictures of Surat where the devotees are covered with marigold garlands up to their noses. Her beautiful smile is there in that picture, So, and she was only like 16 or so when she became a devotee. And then Prabhupada took a whole bunch of devotees to India. So she was like 17 or so, young girl. And Prabhupada was teaching us Isopanishad, even in India. So that Surat program was amazing. They put saris between the buildings, to shade us from the sun, and garland the devotees so much with marigold garlands. But in the big city, there's always so many distractions. Cinema, bar, restaurant, so many things. But then we probably went to a village. Now the village, in the evening, the only thing you do is you sit and listen to the grass grow. So white sadhus have come. This was a big deal, So there was like 60,000, big, huge pandal, 60,000 people were there. And Prabhupada was so every night this huge pandal was there. So Kasalya, she was a young girl, she wanted to get some attention from Prabhupada. So she came walking up to Prabhupada and said, oh Prabhupada, I know whole Isopanishad by heart. And Prabhupada said, oh, that's nice. In the evening, he announced in Hindi that I have got one lady disciple. She can chant whole Isopanishad by heart. And Kasalya said, oh, no, why did I ever tell him, And then Prabhupada announced to the devotees in English, that I have got one lady disciple. She can chant the whole Isopanishad by heart. And he waved at Kasalya, and Kasalya got up, and she looked out, 50,000, 60,000. So she shut her eyes and starting, Isha, Vasha, Vidam, whole Isopanishad she went through. And then, when she finished, Prabhupada was so happy. He called her over to the Vyasa-sana, and just like a grandfather with his there was a big arm to the Vyasa-sana, and Prabhupada just pulled her over to the arm into his lap, like a grandfather with his granddaughter, and he was rubbing her back. He was so happy that she actually pulled it off. So, actually yesterday was Jiva Goswami, was it appearance or disappearance?
Disappearance.
Huh?
Disappearance.
Disappearance. So, I believe it was, I can't remember if it was Baladev or Visvanath Chakravarti Thakur. One of them has written this beautiful Mangalacharan to Jiva Goswami Satsandarbs. He says, Yashankya Panke Nakutar Kapasana Vivard Yashankya Panke Nakutar Kapasana Vivarta Gartena Chaduti Shudam Milapak Sudaya Maheshram Krishnam Sajivam Prabhumastu Nogati. Yes, the Maheshram Sri Krishna, the great Lord Sri Krishna, his shining glories were trampled into the mud of atheistic Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya Pankena. In Sanskrit, punk means mud. Nowadays it means something else, but in Sanskrit it means punk. That means mud. So it was trampled into the mud of atheistic Sankhya philosophy. Kutarka, Pashuna. Tark means to argue. Just like the pundits, they always love to argue with one another. So they waste their time. Kutarka. Kutarka Pashuna. Just like Su, we just heard, means good. So opposite is Ku. Just like we know one verse in Bhagavatam says, those who have good intelligence, Su Medasa, they chant the holy name. But you have Ku Meda, crooked. Ku means crooked. So Kutarka, just useless argument. Without touching on Krishna. Pashuna, that's like a dust storm. Just like if you stay in Vrindavan, then in April, these big dust storms come. You just see in the distance, the whole horizon is black. And you can see this lightning, here and there. It's too far away to hear the thunder, but you see the lightning in this whole black horizon is there. And as you watch, the horizon becomes closer and closer and closer and closer and closer. And then suddenly you see all these birds come flying, they're flying ahead of it, and then there's dust everywhere. And it gets in your eyes and between your teeth. And, so just like that, this dust storm of Kutar, useless argument. Vivarta Gartena Chalukti Diditim. Those shining glories of the great Lord Sri Krishna, they got lost. Lupt means lost. They got lost in the black hole of Mayavad philosophy. But Shudam, with his pure Vak Sudaya, nectarine words. Vak, like Uvacha Vak. Shudam, Vak Sudaya, nectarine words. Jiva Goswami has rescued those shining glories of the great Lord Sri Krishna. So he is my Prabhu and Astunogati and the Gati, goal of my life. Beautiful Mangalacharan by either Vishwanath or Baladev, I can't remember just now. So this is our Srila Jiva Goswami. So 7 generations before Jiva Goswami appeared, there was a great king in Karnataka named Sarvagya Jagadguru. And somehow, although he was a king, he was in the Brahmin caste. And his son was the illustrious Aniruddha, who gave birth to Harihar and Rupeshwar. So Rupeshwar was the youngest son. He kicked Harihar out of the kingdom, so Harihar went off to some other lands, and eventually his descendants settled in Naihati. And then there was one Kumardev. In order to associate with all the Vaishnavas, he moved to a place near Jessore, which is now in Pakistan. In fact, we have got some property that somebody donated, because nobody knows exactly where that was, but somebody donated some nice property near Jessore, so they made Rup Sanatan Smriti. Smriti means memorial, because we don't know exactly where he was born, so this memorializes. And this beautiful temple, it's an amazing place. because you're just going through the fields of rice everywhere, just flat, and you see some little bit of hillocks, and some banana trees, and just rice and rice. And somehow it's right near the Bangladesh border. So all along the road, they know the devotees. Everybody go, Haribol, Haribol, not like rest of Pakistan. But anyway, there it's nice. And all of a sudden, over the palm trees, you see this big white dome. So amazing. It's a beautiful place. Rup Sanatan Smriti too. So Kumardev, he had many sons. Of them, the most illustrious were Rupa, Sanatan, and Anupam, who later became Sri Bala. And they were very great Vaishnavas. Somehow, the king, the Muslim king, he heard about actually what happened, we've been there, we went on Jayapataka's safari one time. They call it safari, but it's a safari. And there's this big, because it was in Gaud, this is why we're called Gaudiya Vaishnavas, because that area is called Gaud. And it's very flat. So you need to see, if some enemy is attacking, you need a watchtower. So they built this big, tall, he ordered his secretary to build this big, tall watchtower. So he knew that Sanatana Goswami was very intelligent. And in fact, that's 500 years later, that watchtower is still standing. Used to be able to go in, but people used to use it for nefarious activities, so now they closed it, unfortunately. But it's still there. Everything is flat. You see this big watchtower. And he showed it to the king. The king said, "Who made this?" He said, "I did." He said, "You're not stupid. You're too stupid. You couldn't do this." Who did this? And he said, "Well, Sanatan." At that time, he was known as Santosh. He said, "This guy is very intelligent. I want him in my ministry." And his brother's also very intelligent. So he made them an offer. They couldn't, because they were Brahmins at that time. Brahmin society was so rigid that if even Muslims sprinkled water on you, you were rejected from Hindu society. What to speak of working under a Muslim king? You were immediately rejected from Hindu society. So he didn't want to join the thing, but he said, you join my ministry, or made an offer he couldn't refuse. So Sanatana became his prime minister, and Rupa Goswami became the treasurer. And that treasury house is still there. That's actually the prison. They weren't kept in an ordinary prison, they were kept in the treasury house. And that's still there. So they were suffering because they were great devotees. In fact, if you go to Ramakeli, you see their house, they have beautiful Madan Mohan temple. Even before discovering the Madan Mohan in Vrindavan, Sanatana Goswami had Madan Mohan temple there. So they retired to Ramakeli, and one time Mahaprabhu told everybody he was going to Vrindavan. But Vrindavan is east, he went north. So many scholars and acharyas believe that actually he only went to save Rupa and Sanatana. So he got there with thousands and thousands of people following him, and he came to, even the Muslim king was, "Oh, this guy is something special." And Sanatana goes, "Oh, he's just no pain." He says, "No, he's very special. How many, I have so many servants, but if I don't give them their pay, they'll all run away. But this guy, thousands of people, he's not giving them a thing and they're following him. He's a very special person." So somehow they managed to get darshan of Mahaprabhu, and that tumultuary is still there. They fell down like sticks in front of Mahaprabhu. And some people say that Jiva Goswami was a small boy and he saw. Some people say that he wasn't born yet. But anyway, somehow Jiva Goswami was born in this beautiful place. And Rup Sanatan, finally they went off to join Mahaprabhu in Vrindavan, but they missed, they didn't see him in Vrindavan. Sanatana Goswami came later because he had to get out of the jail somehow. And Rupa met him at Prayag, and then Sanatana Goswami met him at Dasashvamedha Garden in Kashi. Later Mahaprabhu called Rupa and Sanatana and Sri Balav to Puri to meet with him. And unfortunately, Sri Balav left his body on the way. But Sri Balab's son was Jiva Goswami. So Rupa and Sanatana were his nephews. So this was a big shock for Jiva. His father had disappeared. But anyway, Rupa and Sanatana told him, you study here and then you come join us in Vrindavan. So Jiva Goswami, he was not ordinary child. He was not interested in playing or sports. He was only interested in hearing about Lord Chaitanya and his pastimes, and hearing about philosophy. And he learned, Sanskrit and philosophy, everything. He was amazing. Everyone was amazed. And they saw that he was completely detached. And he was always weeping for Mahaprabhu. And everybody knew one day he'll run away and never come back. So one night, of course many times he had dreams, but one night he had this special dream. And Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda appeared in that dream. And they were dancing and chanting on the side of some river somewhere. And everybody was in ecstasy. Everybody was swimming in the ocean of bliss. And then all of a sudden, Jiva Goswami's sleep broke. And he saw it was, middle of the night. He was in great lamentation. Somehow he managed to get back to sleep. Then again he got a dream. This time he saw Krishna and Balaram. And he was so amazed, this beautiful blackish form of Krishna, like a monsoon cloud, and this beautiful white Balaram. There's a very nice verse about Balaram. Shankha kunindu svedanga balare. Shankha, means conch shell. So he's white like the conch shell. Shankha kunda. In the summertime we get this mogra flower, jasmine flower. But in the wintertime that doesn't come. So another flower comes, white with little pinkish highlights on it, called kunda. So Balaram's white like this kunda flower. Shankha Indu. Indu is another name for the moon. Shankha Indu Swet. Swet means white. Svedanga Balaram. So he saw these two beautiful forms playing with all the cowherd boys. And then all of a sudden before his eyes, Krishna, Gaura appeared. Took the place of Krishna and Balaram, and all the cowherd boys became all the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. And they were dancing and chanting. And Lord Nityananda came and put Jiva Goswami at the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put him back at the feet of Lord Nityananda, like this. They were going back and forth. And he just fell at their feet. And they ordered him to follow his brothers, his uncles, to Vrindavan. So when he woke up in the morning, on the excuse of going to study, he packed his things and left good for good. He never returned. And since God is north, first he went south, and he came to Navadvip. And although Lord Chaitanya had already wound up his pastimes, Lord Nityananda was still there. And Lord Nityananda took him on Prikama of Navadvip. This is the first Prikama of Navadvip. Bhaktivinoda has written the book, I can't remember the name right now, but all about Lord Nityananda showing all Jiva Goswami, all the wonderful places and all the wonderful Vaishnavas who are still alive. Everyone gave their blessings to Jiva Goswami. Then he came to Kashi. And there was one, Vachaspati. And he was the student of, disciple of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So he began to teach him Sanskrit and Nyaya and so many different things. And he was so impressed, Jiva Goswami grasped everything so quickly. Then Vachaspati began to show him around Kashi that this boy is so amazing. He became very respected scholar in Kashi. And when he had full control of all these philosophical points, but then he left and went to Vrindavan, where he met his uncles, Rupa and Sanatana. And there's some interesting stories about Jiva Goswami in Vrindavan. There's one time, Rupa Goswami was writing this Bhakti Rashamrita Sindhu, and Jiva Goswami was helping him with editing. And one day, Ballavacharya came. And so he saw this young Vaishnava writing this book, so he thought, out of his kindness, I'd see what he's writing and give him some points. So first of all, he saw that Rupa Goswami had written that Bhukti Mukti Spriha Yavati Pisasti Yadi Vartate Riddhi Vartate. And he said, how are you, Pisachi means witch. And he said, how are you calling Mukti a witch? There's so many verses in Bhagavatam glorifying Mukti. Of course, we know what real Mukti is, and he also knew. But how can you call her a witch? And then he made some other comments here and there. And Jiva Goswami was thinking, there's no second person on the planet who knows the philosophy like Rupa Goswami. Who is this guy? But his guru didn't correct him, didn't say anything, so he kept his mouth. Then Rupa Goswami excused himself to go take bath in the Jamuna. So then Jiva Goswami began to speak with Ballavacharya. He said, first of all, he didn't say that Bhukti is a witch. He said, Bhukti Mukti Spriha. Spriha means desire. The desire for Bhukti and Mukti is a witch. That haunts the heart like a witch. And then whatever other points Ballavacharya raised, he smashed them all. So Ballavacharya was so astounded, he ran to the Jamuna. He says, you please forget whatever I said. Your disciple has shown me the light, I've understood everything. Everything you've written is perfect. Don't even bother to change it. And Rupa Goswami, he was a little disturbed, and he came back and he said, Ballavacharya was our senior Vaishnava. He offered to help out of his kindness, and you couldn't tolerate? This is a great breach of Vaishnava etiquette. You don't have proper etiquette. You should leave Vrindavan. You should leave Vrindavan. You're not fit to stay here. So with a heavy heart, Jiva Goswami, somehow he went north. He should have gone back, which is west, but he went north. And way upstream Jamuna, there's a place called Nandagat. And the village nearby is called Baigaon. Just like we know Prabhupada's name is Avaya, fearless. So Bai means fearful village. Because there, at that Nandagat, Nanda Maharaj took his bath, and the servants of Varuna arrested him. And they pulled him under the water, and everyone got frightened. What happened to Nanda? And later, Krishna and Balaram, they jumped in the water, and they went down, and they saw Varuna there, and they saw Krishna and Balaram sitting there on nice thrones, and Varuna was worshipping them very nicely. And he apologized, actually, my servants, they don't know things. It was a funny part, just like you see the Paran time, every time they caught us between this time. It was a funny one, it was a little too early to go in the water, but it was not a big mistake, but they arrested him anyway. You should, whatever punishment you want to give me, because I'm responsible. Like nowadays, if we can figure out some way to get out of it, blame it on someone else. Just like we have a sage in America called Murphy. He says to err is human, but to blame it on someone else is more human. He says, actually you should punish me. The Krishna said, no, I'm very satisfied with everything. And then Krishna and Balaram came out and they were telling everybody that we went down. There was this great guy who lives under the water, and he sat, Nanda Baba was telling that we went down there, and then this great king in the water, he sat me on this throne, and then Krishna and Balaram came, and he worshipped them very nicely. He sat them on thrones also, and it was so amazing. Lala is so amazing. And then they all left, so that place is called Nandagat. Actually, from there, they came to Akurgat. And we know one pastime of Akurgat, but this one you don't know. But at Akurgat, because all the Brishbasis, they heard Nanda Maharaj say that he was greatly honored down there, and Krishna and Balaram were worshipped by this great big king under the water. And so I think, who is this Krishna anyway? Maybe he's some demigod, maybe he's some great yogi, maybe he's, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, So they were all speculating like that. So Krishna took all the Brishbasis there at Kurugad, and he raised them up to the Brahmajoti. And suddenly they were in the Brahmajoti, and they couldn't see their Lala anymore. And they were all frightened, where's Lala? Where's Lala? They were in the Brahmajoti, where everyone else is free from all material miseries. But they were, where's Lala? Where's Lala? And then, when they were frightened by that, he took them further up to Vaikuntha. And they saw everybody's walking around with four arms like this, and there's one personality with this Srivatsa on his chest. And, he was very nice to them and welcomed them there. But they said, where's Lala? Where's Lala? Then he raised them all the way up to Golok. And when they got to Golok, he said, wow, this looks just like our Vrindavan. So he convinced all the Brishbasis that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead without any doubt. So at Nandagat, he found a crocodile hole. Now somebody posted on Facebook a picture of a crocodile in Jamuna. I haven't seen one in all the years that I've been there. Other places in Madhya Pradesh, where the Jamuna goes through, I have seen crocodiles, but not in Vrindavan. Anyway, somebody used to be crocodiles there. Now you don't have to worry. But he was living in this old crocodile hole and performing great austerities and so many things. And Sanatana Goswami came to Rupa one time, and he saw that he was having trouble with his writing. He said, where's Jiva? And he told him the story. And then Sanatana said, where is this Jiva? So he began to wander here and there in Braj. And he came to Nandagat, and there was a little grass Brishbasi hut. He said, Radhisha Madhukari, Radhisha Madhukari. Because all the babas, they go in the morning, Radhisha Madhukari, Haribo Roti Do, and they get nice rotis and sabji. They don't go, they just go to one person and another person, like a bee. Madhumaki means bee, so they go like bee. They don't burden any rihasta. They take some from here, some from there, and they get kheer, Brishbasi kheer. Sometimes we go to our life member's house and they make kheer, and it's like the milk is, the rice is swimming in the milk. But Brishbasi kheer is so thick, you don't even have to put it in a bowl, You just put it on the leaf plate. So he called out Radhisha Madhukari. Then there was no sound. So with impatience in his voice, he said, Radhisha Madhukari. Arey Baba, I was serving my husband prasadam, so my hands are dirty. I had to wash my hands. You're not like our Baba. He doesn't bother anybody. He just chants, Hey Krishna, Hey Radhe, Hey Rupa, Hey Sanatan, Hey Nitai, Hey Gora, like that, and doesn't bother anybody. And Sanatana Goswami said, that could only be Jiva Goswami. Nobody else could do like that. He said, where is he? She pointed down to the river. So he went down to the river, and Jiva Goswami he was taking some wheat flour, mixing it with the water and eating it raw like that. He'd become very weak and emaciated, and there was sores all over his body. He couldn't even stand up to receive Sanatana. He just rolled over and paid his dandavats. And Sanatana Goswami picked him up and got some villagers to pick him up, and they carried him back to Vrindavan, and he put him outside Rupa's bhajan kutir. And he went inside and he asked him, "What have you written about the characteristics of a Vaishnava?" And so Rupa Goswami was saying this and this. He said, "And he's kind to all jivas." And Sanatana Goswami said, "Yes. And you're not kind to your jiva?" So I immediately understood there's some hidden meaning in this. So he ran outside, there was Jiva Goswami, and they embraced with tears, and he nursed him back to health, and then very easily he finished Bhakti Rasavija Sindhu. And Rupa Goswami, by his own hand, he made this deity of Radha Damodar, and gave him to Jiva Goswami to worship. So this is this Radha Damodar. But that original one, you have to go to Jaipur. Although since the old Goswamis died, the young sons are telling everybody and writing books that this is the original. The original is there in Jaipur. Nice deity like this. Very beautiful Damodar. And Jiva, as we told last night, he wrote so many books and rescued those shining glories of Sri Krishna, the great Lord Maheshwaram Sri Krishna, from all these horrible things, and especially this Satsandar, and especially this Gopal Champu, which is, instead of verse form, it's Sanskrit prose, a very wonderful book. There's Purva Champu with all the Krishna Vrindavan pastimes, and Uttara Champu, all the pastimes outside of Braj. Very amazing book. And there's some other stories that there was one fellow, he was a Digvijay Pandit. He had conquered everyone. So he came to Braj and he went to Sanatana Goswami and challenged him to argument. Sanatana Goswami didn't waste his time in useless arguments. So he said, "Then you have to sign my Vijay Patra." That's all right. Then he went to Rupa. Rupa says, like, we're too busy with other things. We don't to sign my Vijay Patra. So then he went to Jiva Goswami and said, "Look, the Sanatana and Rupa have signed my Vijay Patra." Immediately, Jiva Goswami sat up like fire, and they had this big argument, and that Vijay Pandit was just completely smashed. And he took out, he crossed out Rupa and Sanatana's names. Because although one should be meek and humble for oneself, one should, amanina, one should give respect to all, but without desiring respect for himself. So for ourselves we can be very tolerant. But if we hear blasphemy of a Vaishnava, we have to become like fire. Just like Hanuman, when Lord Rama was Sita was kidnapped, and Lord Hanuman, he became like fire. He did literally fire. He burned the whole city down. So for ourselves, we're very humble and tolerant. But if a Vaishnava is blaspheme, then we have to, what next devotion says, what? You defeat them by argument, or go away from that place, or cut out their tongues. Anyway, we're very indebted to Srila Jiva Goswami. He's given us all these wonderful scriptures too. There's no philosophical question. We don't have to go begging to any other sampradaya. Everything is answered by Srila Jiva Goswami. As I said yesterday, he wrote 400,000 slokas in his lifetime, his literature. And you take all the 18 Puranas, you get 400,000 slokas. And I mentioned yesterday, one Gavard, I can't remember, but he preached in South India. He was in Udupi, had a seat of Madhvacharya, Madhva Sampradaya. And he saw they were all studying the Sandarbhas of Jiva Goswami. And he said, your acharyas have written so many things, defeating Mayavad philosophy. One time they established a deity of Madhvacharya in Badrinath. They came through Vrindavan. And in all the papers, wherever they went, they were announcing that anybody who can defeat them will get 1 lakh of rupees. And they found no contenders. He said, yes, our acharyas have smashed this Mayavad philosophy, but these Mayavadis are so sneaky and slippery, they twist everything around that I am God. But Jiva Goswami has composed his 400,000 slokas in such a way that you put it forwards, you put it backwards, you turn it inside out, it just means Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nothing else. So anyway, we'll put our voice to rest here. If you have any other questions, we can try to answer them.